I think we did better in the last 60 days for our border security than we've done for decades. So
Yeah.
that was not bad, And on that front, and the only front I'm going to agree with Mr. Trump, that was a nice coup.
We had the honor of speaking again with former CISIS chief of the Asia-Pacific region, Michel Junot Katsuya. Disinformation, geopolitical policy, and national pride were just some of the topics we discussed. And although we didn't agree on everything, what we did agree on was that these are incredibly important issues that Canadians need to focus on.
Let's take a look. Michel, welcome back to Northern Perspective. It's a real privilege to have you back.
It's a great honor and great pleasure to be back with you, my friends.
So we talked a lot last time about foreign interference, the current state on that it's or current effect it's having on Canada, the scope which Canadians and ourselves were not even aware of how widespread that it was, and we discussed some of the Hogue report. That led us to have an interview with Sam Cooper, and it fit a lot of the other pieces of the puzzle together. But one thing that we've been warning our audience about, and we are seeing it more and more often every single day, unfortunately, is misinformation campaigns, disinformation campaigns, all on the battleground of social media. And it's hard to tell who's who, what's real, what's not, and who to even believe anymore. And this seems to be the intended state of things from our adversary. So I'll just throw the ball over into that, and like, what are your thoughts on the current state of things?
Well, I think from the get-go, I'm going to throw a bad news. We are in a state of war. We are currently at war. It's called a hybrid war. And hybrid war is not sort of a fancy word to try to sort of look intelligent or anything like this. Hybrid war is a form of warfare that has been practiced for quite a long time. And it's extremely difficult to counter to a certain extent because of the nature of the hybrid war. What is a hybrid war? Basically, the quick definition is that it is a mixture of traditional warfare, like we see in Ukraine as we speak, combat on the battlefield, with another form of tactics that are used in a more clandestine, in a more obscure way, where act of sabotage, intimidation, and disinformation is literally used as an operational base to attack opponent of your immediate enemy or the people that are helping that enemy. If we look at Canada, some of us have noticed that last week there was articles that talked about a communication cable between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland that was cut. It was the second time in 1 year, and it was cut like really clean cut. It was not like drag and ripped. It was not an accident of an anchor that drag or a net or anything like this. No, it was like actually pulled out of the water and cut, literally, and we could see the pictures and everything. Second time in 1 year. Now, accident happened, but accident happening at the same time and in different location, it's not an accident anymore. Not in my field, not in my line of work. When we look at the date when the incident took place, both in North America and in the Baltic Sea, we see correlation. November 17, November 18, December 24th, December 26, February 2025. There's over 12 incidents like this that took place. And in Canada, like I said, twice in 1 year. Now, if I was to ask you, could you point to me on the map where the cable are, and could you find the cables? Some of them are buried in the bottom of the sea. No, you need to have the technology, the knowledge, the capability to find, to locate, to drag, and to sort of pull out and to cut and everything. So this coordination with the dates demonstrate to us that there was a certain form of coordination organized by a country. Now, of course, the fingers are pointing in the direction of Russia. But add something else. Last year in 2024, there was over 100 incidents of sabotage that were done in Europe. We're talking about arson, where buildings were burned. We're talking about men who were arrested preparing a firebomb that would go on a plane that was destined to North America. We're talking about trying to derail train, and even assassination plot were interrupted. Over 100 of them, and many men were arrested. Many people were arrested when they were doing those deeds, and they confess that they were recruited by Russian agent and paid by Russian agent. Now, for them, they were just criminals and they were just doing a job. It was a paid job. But nevertheless, the actions are right there. And we know also that there were other form of attacks that were a bunch of disinformation, as you pointed out, disinformation, fake news, deep fake news. We had also cyber attacks against Canada and everything. So as we speak, the next prime minister that will be elected in a few months, excuse me, need to have a war plan, because we are at war. We are currently at war. They need to have a war plan. We need to make alliance with NATO. We need to better alliance with NATO and reinforce our collaboration with NATO. We need to re-equip our national defense as soon as possible, better equip our country. We need to sort of make alliance also with Northern European countries that do have icebreaker that will be capable to patrol, because for the moment we got nothing. So we need to be capable to sort of assure a certain presence. And yeah, we will cooperate with these people. We need to reassure our collaboration with the Commonwealth. Because if something good comes out of that situation with Mr. Trump, and I return to the ideogram of the Chinese ideogram for crisis, which is the same that is used for opportunities. So there's an opportunity here for us to sort of realign ourselves to a certain extent, and for the entire world, for matter of fact, because for a very, very long period of time, we are guilty of feeling way too cozy with our friends of the South.
We're complacent.
We let them. Yeah, we let the U.S. sort of taking care, or assuming that they would take care of us if there was a conflict or anything like this. Not that we're not capable to do so, but we simply sort of became lazy. And, there's people who were talking about the lazy eye of the Five Eyes. And yeah, we might have been the lazy eyes of the Five Eyes for a certain period of time. But now it's about time that we sort of drink a cup of maturity, that we sort of, if we want to play with the big boys, well, we need to sort of act like the big boys and start realigning ourselves adequately. And obviously, Mr. Trump has demonstrated that he's not reliable. He's changing decisions and bullying us and bullying everybody. We're not. It's not personal to Canada. He's doing it with everybody. So I think this is a great opportunity that is currently taking place. And if I had any advice to any politician, I said, save your money. Don't fly to Washington anymore. If anything at all, provoke the bastard. Provoke the guy as much as possible. His personality will not tolerate that we do not listen to him, we don't return his call, or we sort of don't bow to him. We did try that. And I'm not totally dissatisfied, because as I mentioned in our last conversation, I think we did better in the last 60 days for our border security than we've done for decades. So
Yeah.
that was not bad, And on that front, and the only front I'm going to agree with Mr. Trump, that was a nice coup.
So let's get back to what's happening online, because this is the battleground now that we are seeing leading up to the next election, and we've been trying to warn people that this is going to happen. You're going to see some crazy stories surface online. One of the dumbest recent ones that we've seen is some person trying to argue that Canada is in the middle of probate, and Queen Elizabeth left Canada in her will to the United States, and that's why Mark Carney is here.
Oh, wow.
That's what we thought.
and I listened to this and I'm just
It's
like,
creative
okay,
writing.
yeah, like
You can't. I was going to say you can't make this stuff up, but I guess you can.
but the problem is like there's crazy some of these people that are putting this stuff out, they believe it,
And they have many followers who then believe it.
This is the challenge that we're currently facing. We briefly talked about it during our last conversation. It's what we call cognitive warfare. Mm-hmm. Cognitive warfare is basically a new form of warfare. Not new in the sense that it's never been done before. No, it's been done a long, long time ago. Matter of fact, a dude 2,000 years ago called Sun Tzu wrote the book, The Art of War. And it's exactly what it is about, how to manipulate the mind of your opponent and bring your opponent to do what you want. So 2,000 years ago, somebody wrote the book. And it's been practiced over and over and over. The sort of greatest example of that is, of course, the Second World War and the rise of the Nazi. But the Soviets, especially under Stalin, did the same thing. But any form of dictatorship has practiced as well the manipulation of the mind. Now, what is cognitive warfare? Basically, cognitive warfare is the intelligence operations that are done intentionally to manipulate the information that will eventually sort of lead you to disrupt your analytical capability, your critical sense, and misguide you in your conclusions and misguide you in your actions. When it's really well done, I can even predict how it's going to go and how it's going to end up because I'm capable to manipulate your mind. If I may use an analogy, it's like feeding you junk food all the time. Well, feeding you junk food all the time, at the end of the day, you're going to not feel good. You're going to have a foggy brain. You're going to have overweight. You're going to have all sort of health issues and everything. Well, that's exactly that. I'm feeding you with junk information, with garbage constantly. And when it's done intentionally as a form of intelligence operation, you're capable to create literally dissension and disharmony within a country. A form of polarization appears where people find themselves in smaller community where they think the same way. We call that echo chamber. And those echo chamber, they repeat the same thing. My grandmother would say they keep rolling in their own piss. And at the end, they roll and they roll and they roll. And it's the old say that if you repeat a lie long enough and often enough, it becomes a truth for them. So, and that truth is holy and you don't want to alter it. But it's just self-validation. It's not necessarily proven that it's the truth. It's just self-validation. So now what we are witnessing with the appearance of a new technology called social media, which is still very, very young. Even, the last 20 years is nothing for technology of that sense. We still have difficulties to control, manage, regulate that form of communication. And now it allows people that would have never connected with one another under normal circumstances or previous circumstances, I would say. Somebody that, for example, live in Toronto is now capable to connect with somebody in Saskatoon. because they share the same thoughts. And now suddenly they feel that there's a community behind me. There's people who believes the same thing as me and stuff like that. And it dissolves the possibility to have a common view and a common objective. We started our conversation with great discussions on patriotism and nationalist sentiment. Well, it will dissolve that because external forces want to create that dissension. And cognitive warfare is such an important element now that in 2021, NATO accepted as a sixth form of warfare, cognitive warfare. So there's the traditional one, air, sea, land, space, and cyberspace. And now the sixth one is cognitive warfare. And there's units that are specializing in just doing that. So it is through bots or through intentional operations that they succeed in being capable to manipulate. And many experts, and I'm one of them, that believes that you could today, with in artificial intelligence and deep fake and all, being capable to overthrow a democratic government without firing a single shot.
Well, and that becomes a lot cheaper, a lot safer, and you leave the country
Tremendous.
intact, right? So,
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wonder, Canadians have been known for their politeness. We've been known, as a people who don't typically stand up and challenge. It makes me wonder if our culture is most susceptible to cognitive warfare, just because of the fact that we don't typically like rocking the boat. We don't typically step up to challenge things. We like to accept that what we're told is true, and that then runs head first into the axiom: you can fool anyone, but you can't. But it's hard to convince someone they were fooled. So you have these people that are digesting this information. We see it a lot with people that are being fed just blatant disinformation. One video out there called Canada the Illusion is trying to convince people that Canada isn't even a real country, and it was never ratified. And it's either disinformation or it's someone with a complete lack of understanding of constitutional law. So the issue is that you have a lot of people that now accept that as true, and they don't like to be made the fool, so it's hard to convince them that they have been fooled.
Yeah, they double down.
If Canadians are more susceptible because of that kind gene that we have. But one thing is certain, because I can observe it and I saw it in other countries. For example, we're certain that the Brexit existed because of the interference of the Russians. And the Russians interfere in the election in France, in Germany, in the US. So education is our buoy, our way of saving ourselves to a certain extent. This kind of cognitive warfare will be very, very efficient with lower education country, where there's not much education in certain area. It will grab much easier. People who have a greater education have the capacity, not always, but have at least the capacity to be capable to build a critical mind, question the veracity of their sources, double check and verify where the information is coming from and stuff like that. And this is why, to a certain extent, mass media are really, really important. Traditional media, the enforcement of a certain code of ethics for the journalists, the way they report and what they report and everything, to be extremely skeptical of alternative form of news coverage. I'm not talking like, for example, your blog, because here it is meant to engage into a conversation. It is meant to sort of exchange, and that is democracy at work. This is exactly what intelligent, respectful individuals should be capable to do, to exchange. Doesn't mean I will agree with everything, and I'm not expecting you agree with me all the time, but currently, commonly, we agree to share some thoughts, and hopefully a better situation and a better society will emerge from all this. But certain places, they just sort of capitalize on being negative, not negative in sense of simply criticize. No, they really want to destroy things. They really want to sort of feed you with some crap that because it sells, because it generates emotions, because those emotions, will bring you back to listen to them.
You become addicted.
And I can appreciate also, because a lot of study has been done about that. People, normal people, we work hard for our money. We get up early in the morning. We have all the trouble and the challenge of raising kids in a society that is extremely challenging. I remember my dear father who passed away several years ago. I remember having a conversation with him when I had my own children at one point, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I would not like to have to raise children in your time, because it seems like it was much easier in my time." And I think it was. I think it was for him and my mother to raise us in that period of time, because we didn't have mass media information like we have it now. We didn't have social media. We didn't have sort of the spectrum of sexual predator or ideological predator of any form, of any shape, like we currently have. Technology is sort of a double-edged sword that is fantastic on certain aspects, but the same technology can be extremely harmful also.
Yeah, and working in the technology field for the last 20 years and seeing it evolve, and seeing how overly trusting the system is of technology and what it's doing with it is actually very frightening to me as a technology person, because when our son started in kindergarten, one of the first things they did or wanted to do was create a Microsoft Teams profile for him. And I said, "You're not doing that. You are absolutely not doing that. I want no digital footprint of my son on there, because once you do that, now you have the Microsofts, the Googles, and everybody else starting to build a lifelong digital profile of this person. And by the time they get to be a teenager, the system knows everything about them. They know how they think. They know what they want. They know what they don't want. And the problem is nobody knows the effect even Facebook is having on people.
On children when they grow up.
Especially children. Like, the way I describe it to people is I say, listen, most of us were bullied when we were children. But the difference back then is that when you got on the bus and got home, you were safe. You were safe at least until the next day. Now, you are never safe, because...
bully follow you.
Absolutely. It follows you on Facebook and across your socials, and one picture can completely humiliate you for your entire school career.
Absolutely.
And then you grow up, and that same picture can prevent you from getting employment. It can prevent you from making networking connections. It could prevent a lot of different things.
And
so,
we didn't talk yet about the specific of the COVID generation. The kids who spent their teenage time, one of the most formative time of their life, confined to their room and their computer. That's another ball game that we will have to deal with in the near future, because they're becoming young adults now in their early 20s. No, it's one thing that we need to sort of realize how much we are extremely vulnerable, but there's nothing new under the sun. With any great invention came great catastrophes as well. You know, before we drove, we didn't have car accident. I don't think there was too many
Horse accidents.
Horse head have a plane crash until we had planes and stuff like that. But planes are flying every day, millions of people, and they're going and the right destination, safe and sound and everything. So we still at the early days of that technology. The problem that we're currently facing is that that specific technology now is controlled by a handful of people. That is also a great problem.